Assalamu alaikum. Today is Sunday, September 11th, 2022, and Absab and I are discussing Surah Al-Falaq. So, just as we have done previously, we are going to review the literal meaning of the surah itself, and then we'll delve into the historical context, and then we'll also delve into various commentaries and what other experts and other religious leaders have interpreted from the surah, and how a person like myself can gain from that. So Surah Al-Falaq, literally the word falaq itself means dawn. There are some other interpretations. For example, it can also mean to break open, or to the start of something, cracking open or coming out. These are also some literal meanings, but in general it's dawn and start of something. And I looked at the interpretations from Noman Ali Khan, Yasir Qadi, some other they also quoted from various hadiths, etc. Now let's actually look at the literal translation of that. And obviously, depending on which one you're reading, there may be minor differences. But in general, the one I looked at, it says, "Say, I seek refuge in the Lord of daybreak." And in some places written positive change, the Lord of positive change, but the Lord of daybreak, from the evil of that which has been created, and from the evil of darkness when it settles, and from evil of blowers in knots, and from evil if an envier when he envies. So that's the literal meaning. And I'll just say here before I start on the the interpretations and the comment, that for me this surah had some very profound inferences. I was literally taken aback by the deep meanings that are rooted in the surah. Now the historical context is, and the larger picture here is, that the surah is a protection for a believer's heart. That's the principal purpose of the surah. It is a tool to protect oneself from the dangers that are outside our being. And the historical context is that the Prophet ﷺ used to recite this during sickness, and he used to recite it every night. So this was something that he recited frequently. So the surah, it's as I mentioned, it provides a refuge and asks for protection. But I think what I will jump to is the areas which I thought were the most impressive in terms of sort of understanding what the surah is trying to say. So in general, as I pointed out, that the surah is asking for protection, and says protection from the evil of that which has been created. And now the interpretation of this is that on one hand, you're asking for protection against evil that has been created, but we know that everything was created by Allah. In the same context, we don't attribute negatives to him out of respect. So the way the surah has sort of mentioned this is because he is the one who has created everything, but we are asking for protection against evil. So protect us against the evil of that which has been created. And in some places, the commentary goes on to say that has been created by Allah. But the idea being, it's not negative. We're asking that, look, everything has been created by you. We're asking for protection against the evils. But the three specific evils that the surah asks for protection against, the first one is ghazab, which is and then there are several meanings of this, but the idea being that the evil really comes out at night, and it is the darkness which brings a lot of evil. So the moon when it is full, night when it is very dark, that is what the literal meanings of ghazab are. And I'm going to pause this just for just a second. So the getting back to the ghazab is the moon when it is full, night when it is very dark, and the evil that darkness brings. So protect the believer against the evils that come out at night. So ghazab is the is that meaning. The second evil is nafasati. But before I go to nafasati, I want to talk about hasad. And I thought this was the most profound for me. So there's a lot of discussion about what is hasad, why is this mentioned specifically in this surah, and why is it bad? So what I took away from this, essentially what this means is protect us against the evil of envy. Now, why is that important? So in general, one of the commentators had said that, look, when you think about something but don't negative, but you don't act on it, in general, that will be forgiven because you have not carried that out into action. The exception is hasad. And the reason why hasad is bad is because and he has broken that, one of the commentators broke that down further. He says, look, somebody can do something, for example, good. For example, he is the leader, or he does something charitable, or he's doing something great. And you feel like, no, I should have done that. That is not necessarily a negative thing, right? You are taking the cue and you're feeling bad about the fact that he did something, but you also want to do something. And in fact, it is a good thing. So that is one aspect of this, and that is not considered bad. However, feeling irritation because something good is happening to someone else, that is what hasad is. The irritation that somebody is having something good happen to him. And that is what we want to protect ourselves against. Now, why is that bad and why is that so profound? And this is where I thought I was taken aback. He said, when you feel envy, irritation, that something good has happened to somebody, you are questioning the wisdom of Allah. Because the reason it happened to him in the first place is because Allah decided that good will happen to him. And when you envy and you feel irritated that, look, why did that good thing happen to him? You are questioning the wisdom of Allah. And I thought that was incredibly profound. So let us, this surah says, look, protect us against hasad. Now, there are a few additional layers to this, which I thought were very interesting. We talk about in Urdu about nazar. And a lot of, the general sense is that nazar is a supernatural concept. It is not grounded in science. There should be no basis for it. However, if you look at the way it has been discussed in context of hasad, then there are some important points. And the points are that when somebody has hasad, then what enters in him may lead to certain actions which may end up providing negative outcomes for that person against which he is envious. And that is the concept of nazar. Because by the simple fact that you're allowing that irritation to take over you as a result of the envy, that opens up your potentially or somebody else's potentially ability to provide unknowingly harm to that person, and that is nazar. So I thought this whole concept was just very, very interesting. I thought the fact that this surah has been provided to us and allows us to ask for God's protection against hasad is very, very, very interesting. It is some of the commentators have said this is the worst of all traits. It causes people to lose common sense.
Worst of all
traits. Worst of all traits. And it loses for people to lose common sense. And it brings out al-ain, which is nazar. And it is sinful. And I think going to that point about feeling bad about somebody doing something good is one aspect of it, but feeling that irritation or desiring something someone has, that is, and the word for that is ribta. That's what somebody said, and ribta is bad. And so I thought, obviously I'm being introduced to these concepts. I thought they were very, very profound, very interesting. So, and the third thing the third evil against which the surah protects us against is nafasati. So nafasati is a more complex idea. Literally, it means to spit, to blow. And I think what it points to is the idea that some people use incantations to provide and blow incantations and try to harm people by by those incantations. And the historical meaning is that previously, when people used to do that, when used to sort of say these incantations and harm them, they would tie knots and blow on them and ask for supernatural harm to that person. So that's what this protects it against. There is some context here. They're talking about females more than males, which I didn't understand too much. I think the idea being that females tend to do this more than males. But so these are the three evils that this surah asks for protection against: ghazat, nafasati, and hasad. And then I think the only other point which I sort of took away from is the first meaning, which is say I seek refuge in the Lord of Daybreak, and that again attributes the power and the huge central importance that is given to Allah, which is that he's being called the Lord of the Daybreak, which is the start of everything. So that is my understanding of the surah. So now, you tell me, what have I missed? What other interpretations should I be looking at?
Okay. Listen, you have done very well, mashallah. You have gone quite deep into it. You have devoted a lot of time. Alhamdulillah. I'm very happy, very satisfying. Whatever I have prepared by way of my presentation, I'm going to fetch it here and share it. And after that, we can further discuss it. I begin in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. All praise belongs to Him, and all of us have to return to Him. So today we are discussing Surah Al-Falaq. This is what Kasha took the initiative about 3 weeks ago, that every week we should pick up one surah. So what is the genesis of this surah? That also we need to go into. So if Kasha, you have heard of Sulh Hudaybiyah, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, if we have not, then I would very strongly recommend that please go into details of Sulh Hudaybiyah. Okay. Actually, this was the treaty which was signed by the Prophet, peace be upon him, while he had reached Makkah, and he could have very easily gone into Makkah and would have taken it over. But somehow he decided that he'd stay back. And instead of going into Makkah, with the people of Makkah, he entered into a treaty. So for your quick reference, I am here giving, which you can read later on, see that what is in nutshell the meaning of Treaty of Hudaybiyah. So actually the lessons learned in the end, as you see on the screen, number one, that victory is not always in winning. And B, with patience, adversity turns into opportunity. These are broadly the lessons, according to me, of Sulh Hudaybiyah. So Sulh Hudaybiyah had just been done. So before proceeding further, I'll explain to you another term which is known as munafiqun. Munafiqun means hypocrites or false believers. So those people who used to pose as if they have accepted Islam at that time during the Prophet's time. So, but then actually in the heart of hearts they had not. So they have been referred to in the Quran as munafiqun. So, having given you some idea about Sulh Hudaybiyah and munafiqun, I have to say that the Treaty of Hudaybiyah had just been done when the surah was revealed. So it had just been done, which means that there was peace between the two parties, the Prophet's party and the other party. But the munafiqun, those who used to pose that they have entered Islam, but they had not, they thought, they got bored. They thought that we should now try some other methods to defeat the Prophet somehow or the other. So that was the background. So what has been, as you have mentioned just now, what has been referred to here is sorcery casting a spell and black magic. So that is the subject matter of discussion. So this man, Labid bin Asim of Banu Zurad tribe, he had decided, in fact, he had reached out to his other munafiqun saying that we should do something now to defeat the Prophet somehow or the other. So after discussion, he did this one and he created some black magic and put that in a well which was known as Zuarwan well in Medina. And because of that black magic, the Prophet ﷺ began remaining pressured from inside. That's what there was a physiological impact on the Prophet. So what happened was that God deputed two angels who came in his dream and sat on either side of his bed, the head side and the feet side, and they talked among themselves, between themselves, that what has happened to him. He said the black magic has been done to him. Who has done it? This man has done it. So what did he do with the magic? Where has he placed it? So he placed it in that particular well. So what next? He said, if that is taken out and dismantled, then his disease will go away. That's what had happened. So at that time, this Surah Al-Falaq as well as Surah Al-Nas, both had been revealed together. So Surah Al-Falaq is, as you have already mentioned, seeking protection from things not in one's control. That's very specific aspect of Surah Al-Falaq. So seeking God's protection from things which is not in my control. Again, something which is unseen. And Surah Falaq and Surah Nas, as I mentioned to you, both were revealed together on this occasion. And jointly, these surahs are named as Mu'awwizatan. This name was given by the Prophet, peace be upon him. Mu'awwizatan. So why it is so? Because the root word A'aza means to cling to someone for protection. Here, people is clinging to God for protection. So both these surahs together have 11 ayat, and incidentally there were 11 knots on that item which was hidden in the well for harming the Prophet. So that item had also 11 knots. So the Prophet, along with his people, Hazrat Ali and other people, went there and they took that thing out, and Prophet started opening the knots one by one and was reciting both these surahs one after another. So as one knot was opened, one ayat was recited, etc. So by the time all the 11 ayat finished, all the 11 knots had been opened, and then Prophet at that time had started feeling quite relieved as compared to his condition for a few weeks. So let's go further. The first word in this is Qul. So Qul is that when God says to Prophet Qul, and by implication to the entire the entire body of believers. So Qul means announce your weakness, seeking protection. You have to announce yourself that I am a weak human being itself is a weak as compared to God. So therefore, he seeks or she seeks protection, leaving aside arrogance. So that is an implication of Qul. To leave aside the arrogance, it's a source of humility. Saying Qul is a source of humility. When you are saying something, then it means that you are showing humility, and it also kills one's ego, the Qul itself.
So some of the commentators said that Qul, and this may be because the word may have more than one meaning, but because it was Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, but also Qul huwallahu ahad, it appears in various surahs. And some of the commentators said Qul is used to emphasize what's coming next in that text. And so, that's what they said for both those surahs, that the word Qul is to emphasize what's coming next. But that may be because it has more than one meaning.
Yeah, that's their understanding.
Yeah.
So the next word which comes is Auzu. Auzu means I seek refuge. As I said, Auzu. And incidentally, there are two more derivatives of this word which are very usually frequently used by Muslims across the world in their conversations. And that one is Ma'azallah and the other is Na'udhu Billah. Both have the same meaning, seeking protection of God. The word Falaq means to tear open. Like the light rips through the darkness. Light tears the darkness open and it rips through the darkness. That is Falaq. And Falaq by implication also has these meanings. Daybreak, as you just now mentioned, plant coming out of seed, fruits, vegetables coming out of the plants, springs coming out of the mountains, rainwater ripping out of the clouds, baby born out of the womb, kitten out of the egg, and lava coming out of the mountain.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah, these are some of the examples of Falaq. So in general, as generic meanings, Falaq also means tearing through any problem one has. So that is, I thought, some of the manifestations. So Falaq also indicates the origin of creation. We have learned about the Big Bang theory, etc. So that origin of creation, whatever it was, so that also is very much ingrained within the meanings of Falaq. So just one surah earlier in Qul Huwallahu Ahad, which we discussed last time, it says, Lam yalid walam yulad. Neither is God born, nor he gives birth. So the implication is that God owns the entire creation. He is neither born nor he gives birth. He owns the entire creation and he is the master of creation. So Rabb, A'udhu billah, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq. Rabb is cherisher and sustainer of the worlds. So A'udhu bi rabbil falaq is manifestation in a way of the term As-Samad, which has been imputed to God as his attribute in the last surah. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad. As-Samad is is an entity that does not need any help from anyone else, but everybody else needs help, his help.
Right.
So after that, the word comes shar. Shar means evil, lack of goodness. Evil is lack of goodness. So darkness has possibilities of evil, as you have just now mentioned. Darkness has some of the possibilities. Then every creation of God has a possibility of doing an evil. That is his grand scheme, actually. He has created the human beings also. It does not mean that all the human beings are perfectly fine and nobody can ever do any wrong. But that is his scheme. He has created human being as a possessor of conscience. And conscience decides what to do, what not to do, while knowing very well which is bad option, which is good option. So the entire creation of God has a possibility of doing evil also. So we further go to the word ghasiq, which you have just now said. It means that which sinks with darkness. And after that it says iza waqab. Iza waqab means when it becomes invisible. Then nafasa. Nafasa, there are two words of nafasa. One is noon fe seen. That is individual human being and his or her soul. But here it is noon fe se. al-nafasa means to blow. To blow in a way that a little spit out comes out of that.
And
So
interestingly, what one of the commentators said was that there is no English equivalent to this word, because in English, yeah, it's either blow or spit, but this is in the middle.
Yes, correct. The Arabic is a very rich language, and there are so many examples where, in fact, for explaining one word, there have to be many paragraphs to be written. So, from that, nafasa is al-nafasat. Al-nafasat, women who blow on knots. You are wondering why it is women. So, actually, it was Labid's daughters who had done that blowing.
Oh.
So because Labid's daughters had done it, so that is a special context because of which it has come women who blow on knots. So and then followed by hasad. Hasad is jealousy and is an unseen harm. And the context is that the enemies of fast spreading Islam at that time were jealous of the Prophet. From that, the word derived is hasid, means a person who is jealous. Is a hasad when she or he indulges in the act of jealousy. So the lesson which we get out of this is that watch out against 3 potential specific harms coming out your way: night, sorcery, and jealousy. These are specific dangers which have been pointed out. So al-nafasat, when it says Qul a'udhu birabbil falaq min sharri ma khalaq wa min sharri ghasiqin idha waqab wa min sharri nafasati fil 'uqad. So al-nafas, wa min sharri nafasat means shar al-nafasat. So before the word nafasat, al has been used, but before the word ghasiq and hasid, al has not been used, because the surah basically deals with sorcery done by those women and blown by those women, done by their dad. So that is the difference. That is further very minute difference here, that for before Ghasiq and Hasid, the word al, which means the specific, has not been used. It is more generic in its meanings. But before Nafasat, the word al has been used. So al-nafasat, the sorcerers and the general public learned from this surah, specifically through particular this word use of al-nafasat, that Prophet ﷺ's source of information was definitely superior than theirs. This is what they realized because of this word used by God, al-nafasat.
And I'll make another comment here, that I think that as I was reading, that the way they found those knots was because it came in a dream.
Yes.
And that's how they determined that it was at the bottom of the well. It was actually not just at the bottom of the well, it was actually buried there. And that's how, no other way to find this, but it was because they were praying and they got this in a dream, and then they said, okay, dig under that well, it's there.
Yes, that's what I just now mentioned, that those people were wondering how come the Prophet came to know. Then they
which is your point.
Discussed among themselves and then decided that it has to be some superhuman, supernatural source of information.
Right.
There is one Sheikh Qasim Nanotwi who has explained the divine message here in this very specific way, that the lesson is that consider yourself as a gardener to protect the self from natural harms. That's how we mentioned it. So people may also be jealous of the attitude of philanthropy. I think you also mentioned that. And people may also be jealous of a person of wisdom who teaches to others. So in Surah Al-Falaq, body is being protected. That's also very important to note. And Surah Al-Nas, soul is being protected.
Wow, that's very interesting.
When we'll come there and get to realize, inshallah. So the lesson in general is that when you are provoked, calm down, keep pardoning, and turn the page until Allah reveals His decision. that is the totality of the lesson which has been culled out from this surah.
Amazing.
And it's important to note that the Prophet ﷺ never called out Labid. He knew God has mentioned to him that this Labid fellow who has done this, but he went there with his people and did what he had to do, but he never in his life. Later on, Labid was in front of him so many times that he never mentioned to him. So that's also a huge lesson. That's a huge lesson.
Yes.
Something which has done so much of harm to yourself or tried to do so much of harm to yourself, but never call out, and it's okay, which means forgive and turn the page.
Yeah.
So in 21st century, what is the lesson to be taken when people are trying to disrespect, some persons are trying to disrespect the Prophet, peace be upon him? The lesson is don't protest on the streets. Rather you can only sue them. That will be better. That is the lesson of Surah Al-Falaq in 21st century in the context of disrespect to the Prophet, peace be upon him.
What do you mean sue them? You mean the legal?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Go and
you mean don't create noise. Instead, use legal means to pursue.
Yeah. Go by procedure prescribed in the Constitution, respective constitutions, and go to the court and file a suit against them.
Right.
So this is, I feel, the message in 21st century of this surah. So Al-Falaq really means bringing light out of darkness. And another word for Tawheed. Tawheed means unity of God. There is only one God. That's the belief of unity of God. Tawheed, another word for Tawheed is Noor. Noor means light. Darkness, actually darkness is lack of Tawheed. Okay, darkness is lack of Tawheed, which we are supposed to be dealing with. Incidentally, this is very important here and big departure from what we have been, that one of the interpreters has said that Falaq is also a door to hellfire, delivering punishment for those who engage in shar or evil. So what do we learn is that the lesson is that keep on doing good deeds in life so that you are placed in heaven and you are saved of the falaq in the hell. Okay. So actually, in nutshell, falaq really encompasses origin of creation to the end of this. The whole thing is there in this word, in the concept of falaq. I'm done.
It's very profound, huge meanings. Chali, this is excellent. Very, very. Which this is obviously, I've made notes also. Which surah would you like to do next time?
I think that we are proceeding in a very systematic manner. So it was Allahu Ahad, then Qul A'udhu Rabbil Falaq, and of course Qul A'udhu Rabbin Nas now, Surah Nas.
Okay. Fine. So I'll make a note of it. So will same time, your Friday 6:30 p.m. or next week?
Yeah, inshallah. Friday. Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. I'm making notes obviously, and I think the recording will be very useful because we can reference it. There also has your slides on it, so plus the discussion is very, 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 very important.
Yes, of course, it's outstanding. I'm so happy, and may Allah bless you for taking this initiative. So where are you?
Thank you. Yeah, so let me call them because they want to say salam to you. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is how I want to say. Where's the grant? Gibran? Sit down and talk.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum. How are you, Hamad bhai?
Good.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Can you come nearer to camera?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Great to see you. I'm so happy to have seen you and met you after some gap. So you have been doing well, and I know that you went for playing soccer yesterday.
Yes, but how is everyone doing?
Everyone is doing perfectly fine, Alhamdulillah. Only missing you. Everybody is missing you here.
So is Huram around?
No, Hudam is not. It's time for her to sleep. So we had all slept. Bhaiya, Samar? Samar?
Okay.
Samar?
Yes.
Yeah.
I sent you a WhatsApp message regarding the household.
Okay, fine. I'll look at it.
Assalamualaikum, Dad Sab.
Walaikum assalam, Jibran bhai. How are you? Why don't you come closer to the camera so that I can have
Okay.
I will look. Nice. Jibran
All right.
bhai.
Later. After. Go there. So you go there. Take that and go there. First, you talk to the other stuff. Here. Ask the other stuff how he's doing.
How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah. How about you, Jibran bhai? How is your school coming along? How is your school coming along? Your
How's
new
your
school?
school?
Congratulations.
Did you tell him your teacher's name?
My teacher's name is. I forgot her name.
Miss Carpenter.
Yeah.
No.
Good. Excellent. I'm so happy. It's nice that I met you. And so how much you have developed some friendships?
You have some friends? Tell us the name of your friends.
The name of my friends are. I forgot their names.
One name?
Owen.
Owen.
Owen. Okay.
Owen. Yeah.
Great name. Wonderful. Yeah. So happy. So what have you studied so far in the school?
Yeah. What did you do in the school?
I forgot it.
Come on. One thing? One thing?
Forgot.
Did you make something? Remember you made the crown?
They made a crown and dot paints.
They've been doing mostly crafts.
All right. You made dolphin.
Yeah. And mashallah, yesterday, Hamad started his soccer
And they made a book.
practice sessions,
All right.
which is why we had to reschedule.
I know. I was
Yes.
talking
And,
when you were just now gone, asking him about soccer.
yes, exactly. So he has mashallah started. This is going to be a session twice a week. And then this week, they've also started swimming classes starting Wednesday. Back to swimming.
Very good. Excellent.
Go watch.
Then very good. How about Islamic studies classes?
So आज से शुरू हो रहा है अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह.
All right.
और सुनिए, it is starting 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. It is a proper school. We'll be going to Wayland, Islamic Center of Wayland. It's a full classroom session starting with attendance or assembly pehle, and then the whole. They both have classrooms with assigned teachers. And there are several activities. For example, every child is encouraged from every family when at every session to recite, जैसे एक surah in the assembly, etc. वो सब activities होंगी पूरी. There are other activities such as Hajj simulation, where they will enact out the idea of Hajj so that they learn about Hajj.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And several other activities. So आज से वो शुरू हो रहा है उनका school. It'll be once a week for several hours. So हम इनको ले जाएंगे वहाँ पर.
Very good. Outstanding. I'm so happy. God bless. Very good. MashaAllah.
तो देखिए कहाँ तक बात पहुँचती है, how they react to it and all that. We'll have to work on it, inshallah.
Yes, inshallah. So once it is there in the system, then it will keep on going, inshallah.
Inshallah, that's the hope. चलिए, thanks very much. Very useful for me. और inshallah next week we'll talk about Surah Al-Nas.
Please
And I'll
give
check on Mama later.
my dua to Dulanbi.
I will. Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz.